we couldn't cooperate together. And we now have that cooperation. And we've seen positive steps that China's taken in terms of taking down some of the companies that are involved, putting in place new regulations. More needs to be done, and this is what we talked about on this trip, to really carry this forward. But it's progress, and it's a demonstration that we can work together when it's in our mutual interest to do it. We're now going to have a dialogue on artificial intelligence. Really important that our countries talk about the risks, the safety issues attendant to AI, which is going to be one of the defining technologies of the coming years.
We need some traffic rules there on cybercrime, on climate change, on future pandemics, and all that. Secretary, I know you have a busy agenda for peace here. There is a lot to be achieved in the coming hours. I don't want to take too much of your time. But maybe last questions coming back to the situation in Europe and Ukraine. The Congress did pass 61 billion to Ukraine. It was not an easy road. The Ukrainians appreciated this a lot. But is there a path towards an end of the Ukraine war? We're talking about breaking impasses and all this, but it's very hard to see what such an end could be.
Well, look, it depends mostly on Vladimir Putin and what he decides. Now, I think Putin has believed that he can outlast Ukraine and outlast Ukraine's supporters. The success in, as we say, better late than never, getting the supplemental budget request is a demonstration that we're not going anywhere. That support is continuing, and in fact, the $61 or so billion is, as we speak, moving forward. And that's critical because I think it's both a practical and psychological boost to Ukrainians who have had a tough 9 months or so, but also a clear demonstration that the support remains and it endures. Beyond that, there are a number of things that are happening that I think are a demonstration that we're in this for Ukraine to be strong in the long haul and to stand strongly on its own 2 feet, militarily, economically, democratically. Militarily, beyond the support that we're providing in the immediate, and Europeans are providing. And by the way, I said this before, but we often talk about the challenges of burden sharing. I've never seen a better example of burden sharing than in the case of Ukraine, where European partners, Asian partners, others, for as much as we've done, have done even more. And that continues. But even as we're dealing with the immediate needs of Ukraine, we have now more than 30 countries that have negotiated or will soon complete negotiations on bilateral security agreements with Ukraine that will help it stand up a future force that can deter aggression and defend against aggression into the future. At the same time, we're driving private sector investment into Ukraine. There are tremendous opportunities despite the difficult circumstances, and we're seeing tremendous interest in that. And even the initial success with that, including Ukraine's success in making sure that the Black Sea is open again to its commerce. It's actually exporting more through the Black Sea now than it was before February of 2022. Revenues are going into the state coffers. You can see a future where Ukraine will be strong economically. And then democratically, the European Union opened accession talks with Ukraine. That's the best pathway to deepening Ukraine's democracy. All of that is the strongest possible answer to Putin, because it says that Ukraine will not only survive, it can thrive going forward. So I hope that Mr. Putin gets the message and demonstrates a willingness to genuinely negotiate consistent with the basic principles that are at the heart of the international community and the UN Charter. Sovereignty, territorial integrity, independence. If those are appropriately affirmed, there should be a resolution. Last thing I'll say on this is that if you step back and look at it, I believe that this aggression by Russia has been a strategic debacle for Russia. It's had to make this massive effort that we talked about in trying to get around export controls and sanctions, but it's reoriented its economy in a way that is not sustainable. It may work in the near term, it can't be sustained in the long term. And in the aggregate, Russia is weaker economically. It's weaker militarily, given the destruction of so many of its forces. And it is weaker diplomatically in much of the world, not all of it, but in much of it. At the same time, Ukrainians are united in ways that they have never been before, including united against Russia, which was not the case before 2014 when Russia committed the first aggression against Ukraine. And as I mentioned before, the NATO alliance, a defensive alliance with no designs on Russia, never has had them, never will have them, is stronger and larger than it was with two countries, Finland and Sweden, that no one thought would be interested in joining NATO a few years ago, and now are members of the alliance. And of course, Europe has moved itself away from dependence on Russian energy in extraordinary ways in just the space of 2 years. All of this represents, I think, a huge strategic setback for Russia. In many ways, Putin has precipitated many of the things he's sought to prevent. I hope that there's recognition of that. And look, the minute that Russia demonstrates that it's genuinely willing to negotiate, we'll certainly be there. And I believe the Ukrainians will be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Secretary. This has been a tremendous tour de horizon. But it will not end with us because excellent Tom Friedman, you're seeing walking there. Tom is going to moderate the next session.
So I'm the opening act for Tom.
Yeah,
right?
so we're the curtain raiser for Tom. I think he likes that. He will have a panel of key foreign ministers taking up the discussion. But thank you so much, Secretary Tony, for your leadership and for your hard work. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.